So I'm currently upstairs editing my video. Um, it's currently spring break, so I had a little extra time to do that. This video is still in the middle of being edited. There's a lot of footage to go through. I'll be back in school next week, so it's not like it's going to be as soon as possible. Hopefully, I can get another part out by the middle of next month. Um, but in the meantime, enjoy what I have edited so far.
Alright, so this video is going to be a little longer than the most videos that I do. So what you can do is that at the bottom left hand side of the screen, whenever I do a screen capture, you're going to see a line counter. Now make sure you pay attention to that line counter because I'm going to try to leave the lines the same. Wherever I'm at in the video, you can hop to whatever code you want to edit, look at line 300 and something, and then just fast forward the video until you hit that line. Alright, so obviously I'm going to start the cursor at line 1, but you can see right here that most of it's just intro to the code. So you can skip most of this. Yeah, pretty much all the lines from 1 to 78. You can change the baud rate of the printer, but there's no reason why you would want a slower baud rate, so just leave it at 250,000. The first thing you can pretty much edit is the define motherboard category. So there's actually a key up above where you have all the boards. The ones that you can see on the screen right now is like the 301 equals the Rambo board, and the 7 and 71 are Ultimaker boards. We have a ramps board. If you go up to line 42, you'll actually see that we have ramps board motherboard 33. This is with one extruder, one fan, and one bed. Now, if you are running a dual extruder, you can go down to ramps board 34, and you'll have two extruders in one bed, but you will not have fans on the default D8, D9, or D10. You have to rewire a new pin to access that. And then you also can do ramps board 35, which I would never recommend. It deletes your bed and gives you two fans that are controlled, but there's no reason why you would want two fans in an extruder. Definitely just keep your bed. So we can skip that step because we're keeping motherboard 33. If you do have a dual extruder and you want to set that up, you can change it to 34, but there's a few other things you have to do. I'd say watch the dual extruder video in which I kind of show you a small bit of the firmware, but most of the stuff you have to do, of course, with the hardware as well. You can do your custom Mendel name. So this is basically the name that will show up on like an LCD controller, or basically whenever you're just referencing the printer itself. This printer on random name generator got the name Angela. So that's why I renamed the Mendel name in the computer. Scrolling down to line 86, you can define the amount of extruders you have. Again, basically in the other video. If you set that to 2, that's one of the other steps. If you are running a stock setup, there's no reason to change that from 1. So as far as I'm aware, on line 92, with the power supply, you can actually put a switching power supply on. Like when you have an LCD controller, you have the ability to turn the power supply on or off. But what it does is it actually turns the printer off, and you actually can send commands to have the printer turn itself off. Now, I usually don't do any power supply turn-offs. I usually just leave the printer on when it's running. Scrolling down to line 132, these are your temperature sensors. So by default, you're set to a temperature sensor 1, which is a 100K thermistor temperature sensor. You can get thermocouples or different resistance thermistors. They just reference the different thermistor tables in the program. By default, you have a 100K ohm resistor, and so does your bed. And if you get replacements, I definitely recommend just getting 100K ohm resistors. They're pretty easy, super cheap, and there's no reason why you would need to get anything else. Now, if you wanted to go with ridiculously high temperatures, if you're printing some specialty filament, you can get thermocouples to get a more accurate thermistor table, or at that point, just a thermal table, because you're no longer using a thermistor. But it's all up to you. Now, as far as the max redundant temperature difference, I don't really use that. And again, I'm only going to go over what I really know. As far as the temperature sensor disconnect limit, this is just checking your thermistor to make sure that you haven't disconnected the thermistor or unplugged it. The first one is the disconnect check time. So I want to say it's every 2 seconds. Your printer will check, hey, how's the thermistor doing? And the disconnect sensor limit is if it is in free fall, that's the delta temperature it's allowed to fall before it stops everything. So if you're set to 220 and it's falling fast and you get to 200, your printer's just going to stop and say temp fall error. Stopped everything on the print. Now, on line 147, you have the temp residency time. This is something that I recommend you change. What this changes is the M109 command on your printer. All the stuff up top before 147 are pretty much just all sensor stuff. So this one I actually can show you what it does. Alright, so I currently have a G-code window open right now. So now in the G-code window, I'm going to type in M109 S50. I put 550, that would have been a while. And then I'm going to put a G1Z50. But the thing is that the G1Z50 is going to wait in the line of code to run until the printer actually heats up. So I'm going to do that first, G1Z50. So now the printer is waiting for the heater to get to 50, and then when it gets to 50, when it's in its residency window, it's going to wait 10 seconds before it actually does anything. So we're at temperature now, and it's got to be in its window for 10 seconds. And there you go. So you can decrease the residency time. Let's go ahead and flash this. Now, you can't have a G-code window and upload a flash at the same time. So the first thing we're going to do is close out the G-code window, and in the Arduino file, I'm going to change the residency time to 2 seconds instead. And then the temp window, I'm going to make 5 degrees. You can make that smaller or larger or what you want, but I want my timer to start earlier. So the thing is that the temp window will just basically be the window in which you will start your timer. And then the hysteresis is what the system actually recognizes as close to the temperature of. I would leave the hysteresis at 3, but you can increase the temp window and decrease the temp time if you'd like to. Now that I've changed the temp residency time to 2 and then the temp window to 5, I can now go ahead and try to upload the code. Now, if you get this debug error, the FPOS_T after struct, that's really easy to change. It'll automatically throw you in the SD base file.h. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit Control F. What you can do is you can type in this FPOS_T and replace with file POS_T. And we're just going to hit find and replace, find and replace, find and replace. Now there's no more left on this page, and you're going to go to SD file.cpp. And you can do the same thing, Control Find, so find that one. And then you're going to do find and replace, find and replace, find and replace. Once you're on the last one, you should be able to re-upload the file, and when you recompile, it shouldn't have any issues when you redo that. Alright, so once the compile is completed correctly, it'll start uploading to your drive, it'll flash the whole firmware, and then, after that little green indicator goes away, it'll say done uploading. Now if it's taking a while, it will take some time. It took me about 50 seconds to compile and upload that, so just be patient. So now I've opened another G-code window, and before I turn the printer on, what I'm going to do is type in those same commands, M109 S50, and then G1Z50. Now what this will do is, as soon as you turn the printer on, it'll heat up, and then when it reaches its temperature, it's going to count to 2 in that larger window, and you'll see it move a lot faster. So you see that it hit the temperature, and instead of waiting for the temperature to re-level and then start over again and then count to 10, it immediately was in that temperature zone, started counting, and then it moved. So this can take away a lot of the waiting that you're doing when you're using the 3D printer. So I always keep my residency time super low and the window really high, because I'm always doing something else if I'm using an M109 to do something. But that's basically what that command does. So that's one thing I like to do. I like to increase my temp window and decrease my temp residency time.
Thanks for watching this part, and stay tuned for the next one.